It's exactly 8 p.m. call local time and you're watching Qnews. We begin today's bulletin with the latest developments in Syria. Saudi Foreign Minister Prince Faisal bin Farhan has emphasized the importance of respecting Syria's sovereignty and independence. Speaking at the conclusion of the expanded ministerial meeting on Syria, Prince Faisal stressed the need for sustained humanitarian and economic aid. He warned that ongoing sanctions hinder the Syrian people's aspirations and called for their removal. He also urged the protection of Syria's resources as a critical step towards achieving stability and recovery. Lebanese Foreign Minister Abdullah Abu Habib has emphasized the need for a comprehensive Arab initiative talk to the Marshall Plan to support Lebanon and Syria's recovery. Speaking after the ministerial meeting in Riyadh concluded, Abu Habib stressed the importance of structural reforms as part of a unified effort to integrate the two nations with their regional surroundings. He added that a remarkable consensus was achieved during the Riyadh meeting regarding priorities and objectives. Gulf Cooperation Council Secretary General Jassim al-Badawi has emphasized support for Syria, focusing on humanitarian aid, refugee return and economic recovery. Speaking at the Riyadh meeting with Syria's new foreign minister, he stressed respecting Syria's sovereignty, rejecting foreign interference and combating extremism. He called for unity in stabilizing Syria, highlighting the disarmament of militias, reconciliation, and restoring Syria's regional and international role as the key to achieving peace and development in this sensitive transitional phase. Egyptian Foreign Minister Badr Abdel Ati attended the international ministerial meeting on Syria held in Riyadh. In his remarks, Abdel Ati stressed the importance of Syria's unity, sovereignty, and the pursuit of inclusive political solutions in line with the United Nations Resolution 2254. He also condemned the Israeli incursions into Syria's territory, urging respect for the 1974 disengagement agreement and an immediate halt to Israeli strikes on Syrian military infrastructure. Abdel Ati also highlighted the need for stability and stronger international cooperation in combating terrorism. German Foreign Minister Annalena Baerbock has unveiled an additional €50 million aid package for Syria. The package will first be a priority for food assistance, emergency shelter and medical care for those in need. Baerbock also emphasized the importance of implementing smart sanctions designed to support the Syrian people while maintaining pressure on the regime. The move underscores Germany's commitment to addressing Syria's humanitarian crisis.
From the transition of power.
European Union foreign ministers are set to meet in Brussels at the end of the month to deliberate on the potential lifting of sanctions on Syria. Speaking en route to the Riyadh talks on Syria, EU Foreign Policy Chief Kaja Kallas stated that the bloc is working to reach decisions regarding sanctions, signaling a possible shift in policy aimed at supporting Syria's recovery.
Also in the process. So these are the things that we are going to discuss.
Arab leaders gathered in Riyadh to shape Syria's post-Assad era as Lebanon and Syria advance collaboration in border security, refugee and financial challenges.
A high-profile summit in Riyadh is bringing regional leaders together to discuss Syria's future, focusing on security, humanitarian aid, and political stability. The primary objective is to coordinate efforts for Syria's transition and reconstruction in a post-Assad era. This comes on the heels of a landmark visit by Lebanon's caretaker Prime Minister Najib Mikati to Damascus, the first by Lebanese Prime Minister in 15 years. During his meeting with Syria's military operations chief Ahmed Shara, discussion centered on enhancing bilateral ties, particularly through border demarcation and increased security cooperation to curb illegal smuggling. Both sides agreed to establish committees to address these challenges and emphasized the urgent need to facilitate the return of Syrian refugees from Lebanon. They also explored solutions for Syrian deposits frozen in Lebanese banks amid Lebanon's ongoing financial crisis. In parallel, Syria's new authorities announced the successful disruption of a Daesh plot to bomb Al Sayyida Zainab shrine near Damascus. Security forces arrested cell members involved in the plan, showcasing the government's commitment to protecting religious minorities and ensuring national security. These developments underscore a collective determination among Arab leaders to stabilize Syria and foster a smooth political transition, paving the way for regional stability and cooperation.
And now we move on to the latest developments in Gaza. Israel has dispatched a senior delegation to Doha to advance negotiations on a potential ceasefire and detainee exchange deal with Hamas in Gaza. According to a statement from the Israeli Prime Minister's office, the move followed a situational assessment conducted by Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu on Saturday evening. The meeting included Defense Minister Israel Katz and U.S. negotiators from both the outgoing and incoming administrations. Three Palestinians, including a paramedic, were killed last night as Israeli forces intensified their bombardment across the Gaza Strip. Palestinian media reported that Israeli strikes targeted residential homes in the Burej and Nusrayot refugee camps in central Gaza. Meanwhile, Israeli military vehicles continued heavy shelling in the northwestern regions of Gaza City, escalating the attacks and deepening the humanitarian crisis. Israeli occupation forces have detained 3 children during an early morning raid in Al Khalil, located in the southern part of the occupied West Bank. Palestinian media reported that Israeli forces have intensified restrictions on the Palestinian movement across the region. Entrances to several refugee camps have been blocked, and numerous Palestinian commercial shops in Al Khalil have been forcibly closed, further worsening tensions in the area. Head of the commercial transport sector in the West Bank, Adel Amro, has reported significant losses due to the ongoing Israeli restrictions on the movement of goods between Palestine, Jordan and other regions. Amro stated that Israeli authorities continue to obstruct the entry of the goods, with only 20 trucks permitted to cross the Karama border crossing with Jordan daily. This restrictions leaves around 480 out of 500 trucks idle, further straining the region's economic activity. Israeli airstrikes have killed and injured several Palestinians in Gaza City and the town of Jabalia. Palestinian media reported that Israeli fighter jets bombed the Al Mukhabarat area in northwest Gaza City, resulting in the deaths of 2 Palestinians in a separate attack. An Israeli drone strike targeted a gathering in Jabalia in the northern Gaza Strip, escalating tensions in the region. Health authorities in Gaza have reported that the Palestinian death toll from Israeli attacks since October the 7th have exceeded 46,500, with more than 109,600 individuals injured. In the past 24 hours, the Israeli forces carried out 2 massacres targeting families in the Gaza Strip, killing at least 24 Palestinians and injuring 89 others. The ongoing violence continues to worsen the humanitarian situation in the region. For more analysis, we now move on to Salma in our newsroom. Salma?
Hi, thank you, Rana. And for further analysis on the current situation in Gaza amid the ongoing Israeli aggression, we're joined from Ramallah by the spokesperson of the Palestinian National Liberation Movement, Fatah, Mr. Ahmed Fattouh. And welcome to Qnews, Mr. Fattouh. Let me start off and ask you, what are the immediate humanitarian consequences of the intensified Israeli bombardment across Gaza, particularly in the refugee camps?
Thank you for having me in your news, and my salutes to all your audience. The implications are catastrophic. It is still increasing the suffering and the agony of the Palestinian people, targeting refugees, targeting hospitals, targeting all sorts of life in Gaza, and crippling the Palestinian health services, as well as crippling all kinds of aid that could come to the Palestinian refugees. The humanitarian catastrophe are magnifying, and the crimes that Israel is committing is intensifying. It appears that Israel is still committed in a genocidal war, and they have no regard to the international law or to the international pressure that is coming from the international community. But recently, we hear that the Trump administration has sent their envoy, Mr. Witkoff, to the Qatar. That is a change, a new position, that there is also an additional pressure that's coming from Trump administration for immediate or for speeding up the ceasefire talks. We are cautiously hopeful, and we truly hope that there will be an immediate ceasefire as soon as possible, and Trump and the U.S. administration would be committed to bringing that before the 20th of January.
Sir, how have the restrictions on the Palestinian movement in the West Bank, including the detention of children, impacted the daily life and the regional stability?
Of course, that is has a huge effect on our daily life, disconnecting the cities from each other, disconnecting and interrupting school children from going to schools, and crippling the economical situation in Gaza. The Israeli oppression of the Palestinian people in the West Bank is intensifying magnificently in the recent days. What they are trying to do is to enforce their apartheid regime upon us, and try to prepare for annexation plan, which we should face very carefully and in a solid unity against these plans.
And does the arrival of a senior Israeli delegation in Doha indicate any potential breakthrough in ceasefire negotiations, maybe?
Well, we are cautiously hopeful about this news. There has been many convoys who went to Qatar or other places and still failed to bring a ceasefire, but we hope that they will be successful. The newcomer of this news that Trump administration is also pressuring now. Probably Trump wants to win that victory that he brought ceasefire in his inauguration, And I assume, this is a personal opinion, that probably Netanyahu is going to give him that gift as for his inauguration.
Mr. Fattouh, how do you think might the involvement of the U.S. negotiators influence the progress of these talks, do you think?
We think that United States is the major element and factor to make the ceasefire take place. It has been the case since the beginning of this genocide. Unfortunately, they have been hesitant, they have been probably unwilling, or probably went off with the Israeli scheme of the full destruction of Gaza, and that is unfortunate. Now, probably with Trump's new administration, he is going to try to bring ceasefire into effect. But that is not the end of the story, because we have still an important and pivotal points that need to be clarified. For instance, the Philadelphia corridor, the Mediterranean corridor, what about them? The north, the return of refugees, the buffer zones need to be dismantled, the occupied land need to be returned to the Palestinian people. Also, on the aspect of the West Bank and the news about the annexation. And most importantly, the establishment of the Palestinian state and the implementation of the two-state solution. That remains unanswered. And I'm not very hopeful that Trump, is going to push into that direction. We feel that this ceasefire could be just a first step, but would, solidify the occupation later on.
Sir, do you think the role of the international organizations maybe can play in alleviating the ongoing humanitarian crisis in Gaza?
Of course, the international law is very important in preventing this catastrophe. Eventually, Israel relies on the international aid coming from the United States and from the Western allies, their Western allies. Unfortunately, just recently, the Congress, the House of United States, has passed a legislation that prevents put sanctions on the ICC, and that is to protect Netanyahu. This was the second bill to come from the Congress after the new election. That is not a good sign. That's a sign that the United States is still going to continue in its bias, in its elevating this occupation further. So we fear that that pressure still needs to go on, and the immediate entrance of aid must be and the ceasefire must be in the top priority of all world leaders at the moment.
Yep. And thank you so much, Mr. Ahmed Fattouh. That was the spokesperson of the Palestinian National Liberation Movement, Fatah, Mr. Ahmed Fattouh. Thank you so much for being with us today. And now we're back to you again, Rana.
Thank you so much, Salma, for the fascinating analysis. And now we move on to the latest developments in Lebanon.
كل المستهدفين هن مدنيين.
وضع شيء مرعب، شيء بخوف.
Members of the Lebanese parliament have emphasized the importance of defining the role of the prime minister in alignment with President Joseph Aoun's vision following his election. In an interview with Lebanese media, Member of Parliament Ibrahim Minima stated that intensive communication are ongoing and will require time. He also expressed his readiness to assume the role of prime minister. Meanwhile, MP Qasim Hashim indicated his support for naming Naguib Mikati as Prime Minister, stating that this choice aligns with President Aoun's principles and priorities. The Israeli occupation military has demolished 5 residential homes in the village of Hayat al-Shab, located in southern Lebanon. Lebanese media reported the Israeli forces planted explosive in at least 5 homes in the Beit Jebel district before detonating them. Additionally, sweeping operations were conducted using heavy and medium machine guns targeting the towns of Maroun al-Ras and Yaroun. These actions constitute a clear violation of the ceasefire agreement between Israel and Lebanon, which has been in effect since November the 27th of 2024. Lebanese President Joseph Aoun received a phone call from Syria's military operations chief, Ahmed al-Shara, who congratulated him on his election and wished him success in his new role. During the conversation, both leaders underscored the importance of strengthening ties between Syria and Lebanon and fostering cooperation to advance the shared interests of the two neighboring countries. And now we move on to the latest developments in Russia-Ukraine conflict. Russia's foreign ministry has stated that Moscow will continue its major oil and gas projects despite new U.S. sanctions. The ministry criticized Washington's hostile actions, vowing to consider them in revising Russia's foreign economic strategy. It emphasized Russia's steadfast role as a key, reliable player in the global energy market, accusing Western lobbying groups of fueling U.S.-led energy conflicts. Ukraine's President Zelensky has called on allies to honor all promises to supply Ukraine with weapons, including those to counter Russian air attacks. Zelensky said that over the past week, Russian forces have launched hundreds of strikes on Ukraine, using nearly 700 aerial bombs and over 600 attack drones. Meanwhile, the Ukrainian Air Force stated that Ukrainian air defenses downed 60 out of 94 drones launched by Russia overnight.
Саме тому жодного дня не можна втрачати, треба тиснути на Москву, треба примушувати.
Pulkovo Airport in Russia's St. Petersburg has suspended operations due to heavy snowfall. Initially planning to resume flights soon after halting all operations at 5:30 a.m. GMT. The airport extended delays as weather conditions worsened. The spokesperson for the Russia's Federal Air Transport Agency confirmed on Telegram that flights bound from St. Petersburg were redirected to alternative airports. The White House has announced that President Joe Biden spoke with Ukrainian President Zelensky, reiterating the importance of continued Western support for Kyiv. Biden highlighted Ukraine's resilience and U.S. backing as factors in thwarting Russia's strategic goals. He expressed optimism about Ukraine's victory and emphasized the significant impact of new sanctions on Russia's economy.
The Ukrainians can prevail.
That brings us to the end of our news bulletin. Here's what we have been covering. Saudi Arabia stresses respecting Syria's sovereignty, removing sanctions, and ensuring humanitarian aid. Israel sends a senior delegation to Doha for ceasefire and detainee talks. And Lebanese parliament members discuss aligning the Prime Minister's role with President Aoun's vision. This concludes our news bulletin for the hour. Don't forget to follow Q News on YouTube, Facebook, X, Instagram and TikTok at Q News EG to stay informed. Thank you for watching and stay tuned for more updates on Q News.